Released in 2013, Battlefield 4 is a game that has been consistently at the top of my list when it comes to an FPS game that has massive replayability. No matter what Battlefield game came out, whether it was Hardline, Battlefield 1 or Battlefield 5, I always found myself back on Battlefield 4 after a couple of months. There's something about this game that just hooks you in. Whether you play on console or PC, it doesn't really matter. It's just a really addictive game with so much replayability. In this video, I'm going to take a look at 5 things that Battlefield 4 has done well over the past decade, and to be honest, I'm hoping that Battlefield 2042 can almost take its place as, in my opinion, the best Battlefield game that we've ever had. That, of course, is a contentious opinion. Many people have their favourites, and that's okay. You can enjoy Battlefield 5 as your favourite, or maybe Battlefield 3. It really doesn't matter. But for me, I think Battlefield 4 did so many things perfectly well and is still a really exceptional FPS game all these years later. Starting out, something that gets thrown around a lot is the term sandbox, and I know certain people do get annoyed with that term. Why do we keep saying Battlefield 4 is a great sandbox, and why is a sandbox so important? I think for me, a sandbox and the idea that you can just jump in and do whatever you want and have that freedom is super important in a game that isn't trying to pretend it's something that it's not. Certain games out there try and pretend that they're really competitive or focused on ranked play, and a lot of people that play it aren't really that bothered. Now, I've got nothing against games that want to be that competitive FPS experience. If that's what they're aiming to be, that's awesome. But Battlefield isn't about that right now. I think you can have the private servers and the rental server program that allows you to create that experience if that's what you want, but the main part of the game that 99.9% of the players are going to play needs to be something fun with a low skill floor so anyone can jump on and play, and a really high skill ceiling so there's always something to learn. Battlefield 4 does that. At the same time, it gives you that freedom in a massive map with pretty much anything that you want to do, and you can just get along with playing the objectives at the same time. Battlefield 4 being something that really does give you the freedom to do whatever you want. There are so many moments. How many times have you been playing Battlefield 4 when something crazy happens that just doesn't happen in any other game? If you want to go and take a jeep and drive up to the back of the map and find those camping snipers, you can do it. If you want to try hard in a tank with a gunner helping you out, you can. And to be honest, there's a whole host of things that you can do as an infantry player. Battlefield 3 had something similar. I think Battlefield 4 really took it to a new level with some more outrageous stunts that you could perform. And then they kind of lost that in Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5. Not that it's everybody's cup of tea, but for me, Battlefield 4 does that the best, and that's what gives it a lot of replayability. The second thing that really makes Battlefield 4 worth playing, and why it's really so good in 2021, is the fact that it runs on older PCs and still looks fantastic. Now, that might not sound like such a big deal for a lot of you, that maybe you're lucky and you're like me as well, where you've got a good PC that can run games and, you know, you don't really think about, can I run this game? But I know a lot of people watching this video and a lot of people out there maybe can't get hold of all the new PC parts. Through COVID, it's been really difficult to upgrade your GPU, and system parts, so CPU, motherboard, RAM, all that stuff, in my opinion, have gone up in price quite a lot, and it's become quite difficult to do that upgrade. Maybe you were planning it for the new Battlefield game. I feel that when you have an older PC and when you can't play the new games because you just can't achieve the frame rates that make them playable, you have two options. Don't play any games, or go back and play something that's a little bit older and maybe your PC could run it. Battlefield 4 fits into that category. It runs so well. There's so many graphical options that you can turn off and turn down and still maintain quite a good looking game. It's also on a huge scale, and you can play with 64 players on a server. There aren't many games out there with that sort of scale that will run on older hardware. It might sound like a bit of a non-issue to a lot of you watching, but for me that makes it such a fantastic game, and it really does open the door for a lot of other players to get into the franchise and start playing. Third on the list is the reason why many people play this game. It's the engaging infantry experience. It's fast-paced, lots of movement options, a whole host of attachments and loadout options for your weapons, and loads of maps to play on. I could argue that maybe the infantry experience is a little bit broken in Battlefield 4 with all the graphical glitches and the ways that you can spam things and use different movement glitches like the Zuzu and jumping off ledges and over med bags and all sorts of rubbish that you can get away with to change your soldiers' hitbox and the way that the enemy see you. Sure, I don't think that should be in the game. It's something you can learn. It's arguably not that difficult to learn. The fact that you can move around much more freely and you can implement different things into your game where maybe other Battlefield games prevent you from doing that, especially Battlefield 1, you can't really do a whole lot with the movement. They nerfed the slide. For me, Battlefield 4 has all that, and that's why people really enjoy playing it. That's why locker servers are full up the whole time. Players who are really into their infantry can jump on and enjoy themselves because of all of the freedom that Battlefield 4 gives you. Next up on the list, of course, if you don't play infantry, then you're playing in vehicles, and Battlefield 4 has the best set of vehicles in any Battlefield game ever created. There is no doubt about that. In my mind, it's so engaging, whether you're in a helicopter, a jet, on the ground, maybe you're even in the water with boats, which you don't really get in any other Battlefield game to the extent that you get in BF4. Sure, Battlefield 1 had some naval warfare, but not as fast-paced as in Battlefield 4. BF4 has so much variety when it comes to the vehicles, and they take a load of skill to use at a high level. At a low level, you can of course jump into a tank and get a kill streak. Tanks are probably the easiest thing to do that with. But if you try and learn how to fly a jet, I mean, I've played a lot in Battlefield 4, and I've actually played in a jet for a little bit too, and I'm really not very good. You watch a good jet player like Silk, for example, popular Battlefield creator. He's amazing, you know, he's doing things that I didn't even think you could do. That's something that Battlefield 4 does that no other game really does. It has that skill ceiling with vehicles. You can learn new things every day and pitch yourself against the best players in the game. When you join a server, there's someone dominating, you can take the same vehicle and go and take it to them and try and beat them. Finally, something that is going to divide opinion, but for me, it's the reason why Battlefield 4 is probably still going so strong, and that's RSP, so the rental server program. Love it or hate it, you cannot deny it's helped keep the game alive. There's so much content in Battlefield 4, but often when you have official servers and no way to customize the experience, lots of things get lost, lots of player groups maybe get marginalized and don't get to enjoy what's out there, and you end up with as well a lot of cheaters, as we've seen in other Battlefield games. When you've got RSP and you have communities running servers, they can manage the experience, and whilst you do get a lot of negativity attached to this as well, I'm not going to try and ignore the fact that you do have admins out there that are banning people and all this other stuff that goes on, but it does really make the game slightly more playable, I think, when it gets to that 5-year-old mark, and DICE have kind of forgotten about it. There's no more DLC coming, certainly after the first couple of years, but there's plenty of other Battlefield games out there that they're concentrating on. Battlefield 4 has really kept going because of RSP, and I think it's the biggest advertisement for that feature. So what do you think of this? They're my 5 reasons why Battlefield 4 is still so good. Nothing else lets you have the freedom of that sandbox experience. It runs fantastically well on old PCs. It's got engaging infantry gameplay, amazing vehicles with a huge skill ceiling for you to reach, and a rental server program that provides all of the content that you could want to play and is still running to this day. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.